Hello and welcome to another video from Minus Touch Toys, Games and Collectibles. And today we are looking at the 1995 release by Playmates from their classic Star Trek movie series of action figures. And these action figures are all based on the characters that appeared in the original series classic movies. So Star Trek the Motion Picture, Star Trek 2 The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 3 The Search for Spock, Star Trek 4 The Voyage Home, Star Trek 5 The Final Frontier, and Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country. So it was all based on those 6 movies. And this particular figure we're looking at today is of Lieutenant Sulu as he appeared in the very first movie, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Okay, so this is the item in front of us. And at the very top, it says exclusive Skybox Playmates Deluxe Star Trek Movie Series Collector Card included. And then you can see an image of that wonderful ship, the USS Enterprise NCC 1701, the original Starship Enterprise. And it says Classic Star Trek Movie Series. And you've got warning, choking hazards, small parts, not for children under 3 years. And you've got the Star Trek Delta badge there. And it says Lieutenant Sulu. And he comes complete with Galactic Accessories, which includes his Starfleet Phaser, his Starfleet Wrist Communicator, because in the motion picture they wore wrist communicators, Starfleet Tricorder, Vija Spacecraft Section, and bonus with the Star Trek movie action base. Now, these particular series all came from the motion picture. They came with a piece of the Vija space probe, which if you bought the set, you would be able to assemble the Vija space probe. It says assortment number 6450 and it's stock number 6454, and it says as seen in the hit Star Trek the Motion Picture. And just behind that you can see an image of that Skybox card, which features George Takei as Lieutenant Sulu as he appeared in the motion picture. Okay, that's the front of the card. Before we have a good look at the figure itself, let's turn the card around and see what we got printed on the back. Okay, so I've turned the card around and this is what we got on the back. And it says Classic Star Trek Movie Series. And it's got exclusive Skybox Playmates Deluxe Star Trek Movie Series collector card included. And there's an image of Commander Chang as he appeared in Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country. And he was played by the late, great Christopher Plummer. Okay, and you've got the Band-Aid sticker, which is stuck over the image of the Enterprise. Band-Aid were the British importers of the Playmates models back in the 1980s and 90s. And it says not suitable for children under 36 months, contains small parts, distributed by Band-Aid UK Limited, and it gives you their address and details. It says collect the whole universe of Star Trek heroes and villains as featured in the original Star Trek movies. So you've got Admiral Kirk from Star Trek the Motion Picture, Commander Spock from Star Trek the Motion Picture, General Chang from Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country, Dr. McCoy from Star Trek the Motion Picture, Commander Krug from Star Trek 3 The Search for Spock, Lieutenant Sulu from Star Trek the Motion Picture, which is what this one is, Lieutenant Savick from Star Trek 2 The Wrath of Khan, Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek the Motion Picture, Khan from Star Trek 2 The Wrath of Khan, and Martia from Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country. So if you collected the Admiral Kirk, Commander Spock, Dr. McCoy, Lieutenant Sulu, and Lieutenant Uhura, 2, 4, 5, those 5 figures, you will be able to build the Vija space probe. So it says includes Galactic Accessories. So Starfleet Phaser. The phaser sends out a disruptive energy field that interfere with the molecular structure of any target. Starfleet Wrist Communicator. Sulu can contact the Enterprise through the comlink, and it broadcasts a signal for the transporter to lock onto for quick escapes. Starfleet Tricorder. The Tricorder is an essential data processing device that provides quick analysis of environment or object. And we've got the Vija Spacecraft Section. And again, it says collect all 5 Star Trek the Motion Picture figures to assemble the entire Vija mode. And again, that's Admiral Kirk, Commander Spock, Dr. McCoy, Lieutenant Sulu, and Lieutenant Uhura. And it says, coming soon, Star Trek Voyager, explore all new frontiers with the crew of the Star Trek Voyager from Playmates, coming this fall. And it's the clip and collect section. Let's bring this forward so we can read it a little better. So it says, Star Trek the Motion Picture, 1979 release date, starring Jules Hikaru Sulu in unique Star Trek the Motion Picture uniform. Guest appearance, Stephen Collins as Captain Decker, story by Alan Dean Foster, a veteran Star Trek TV series writer. It says Lieutenant Hikaru Sulu had been the helmsman for the Starship Enterprise under Captain James T. Kirk during its famous 5-year mission. Born in San Francisco, the home of Starfleet Academy, Sulu happened to be in that area when a strange alien threat appeared in the galaxy. An immense cloud measuring at 82 AU seemed to pose a threat to the Earth. The Enterprise had just been refurbished in orbital dry dock when Admiral Kirk became involved in the operation to investigate and encounter the space object. Starfleet Command Admiral Nagura decided that Kirk and the Enterprise crew were the ones with the most experience in such situations. Mr. Sulu was, of course, Admiral Kirk's first choice to provide the Enterprise to guide the Enterprise on this crucial mission. After assembling his whole crew, Admiral Kirk discovered that the cloud was actually a probe called Vega, originally Voyager spacecraft. Alien technology accidentally caused it to evolve into a hostile probe. But because of Mr. Sulu's performance and that of the other crew members, this incident was resolved successfully. There we go. Very, very small writing there, so yeah, a little bit difficult to see, but there we go. Anyway, so that is the back of the card. Now, without further ado, let's turn the card back round to the front and let's see what we can see on the actual figure itself. Okay, so I've zoomed right in on the figure itself, and I just wanted you to have a look at the facial features of this figure, because I think it's very good. It is a very good likeness of Jules Hikaru as he appeared in Star Trek the Motion Picture. Remember, Star Trek the Motion Picture was 1979, so it was nearly 45 years, or just over 45 years, I should say. And at that time, George Takei was only 42 years old, so yeah, he was a much younger man than what he is now, obviously. But the imaging or the facial features of the figure is very close to George Takei there. Very, very good sculpting again from Playmates. Even though these figures are nearly 30 years old, still very, very good. The likeness is great, and they did spend a lot of time on the detailing and the sculpting of the face, which I think is excellent. So for these size figures, I think Playmates produced some of the best ever for the likeness of the characters. These are the 5-inch figures, or the 4 3/4-inch figures as we know them as today. Okay, so facial features brilliant, and let's zoom in and have a really good look at Sulu. There we go, really good. The hair is absolutely spot on. The eyebrows and eyes, nose, mouth is just absolutely right. So very, very good. And he's in this yellow uniform. I don't remember him being in yellow uniform in the movie. I thought he was in a white uniform, but maybe I don't know, they've just done it in yellow plastic for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But you can see the badge there, again, the Delta badge on his left breast. And there's his belt at the bottom there, into his trousers and down to his boots at the bottom there. And you've still got the stripes on his shirt as they had in the original series, as you can see there. Now, like I said, these were the 5-inch figures, or the 4 3/4-inch figures to be exact. Let's just zoom out there again, and we can have a better view. And I just want to get some exact measurements here for you. So if we put our ruler to the figure, we can see, yeah, 4 3/4 inch, or in other words, in centimeters, we're looking at just under 12 centimeters, so 11.5 centimeters really. Width-wise, we measure across his hands at the moment, we're looking at 6 centimeters, as you can see there, and depth-wise, about 2 centimeters again from his back to the end of his feet. So typical size of the action figures. Articulation wise, well, I can't take him out obviously because he's sealed in the pack, but I do have my trusted Ben Sisko action figure here from Deep Space Nine episode Trials and Tribulations, and Ben Sisko here is dressed in his original Star Trek uniform. But the articulation and the size of the figure is exactly the same. So if we measure him again, we're looking at just under 12 centimeters, 11.5 really to be precise. And again, he's 6 centimeters across there and 2 centimeters deep, as you can see at the bottom there. So articulation, so we've got the head that turns, we've got the tops of the arms which go up and down, and then you've got the section in the middle there, just above the elbow that turns. So you don't need to turn the hand because the whole arm turns, and you've got the elbow joints there. So you've got 3 points of articulation on each arm. The waist, top of the leg, which moves up and down, and the knee joint. So you've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points of articulation on these figures. The later ones actually also had the movement at the tops of the legs, so you could turn the legs, but these ones didn't. So Star Trek Voyager ones did, but up until that point, these ones didn't have that extra articulation on the legs. Other than that, it's still great articulation for the time. And let's just have a very quick look at the accessories. So there is Sulu's Wrist Communicator, and that snaps. If I can just angle that, you can see it's got the hooks on the back there, and that snaps onto his wrist. So it's his wrist communicator, and just below there is his tricorder. And if we go into the back, you've got his display base, and just behind the card on this side, if you can just see, let me just zoom out a little bit so we can, around the back there you can see the part of Vija that assembles with the other 4 parts to create Vija, the space probe, or Voyager 6 as he was otherwise known. Okay, how well did these figures do back in 1995? Well, yeah, they done tremendously well. 1995, Star Trek was the biggest franchise in the world. As you know, I've told you before, we were spoilt with Star Trek back then. We'd had the original series, we had the animated series, we'd had the original series movies, we had Star Trek Next Generation, we had Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and we now had Star Trek Voyager. This is in 1995. So much Star Trek was going on, and of course after Voyager you had Star Trek Enterprise. Then there's been the hiatus for a while before Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds and so on, Lower Decks and what have you. But back then Star Trek was the biggest franchise in the world. Obviously Star Wars is now bigger than Star Trek, but back then Star Trek was the biggest. Merchandise we were all crying out for. As soon as these figures were released, we still had the shop at the time. As soon as these figures were released and came in, we had customers in the shop buying all the new figures. So at the release date, for every time a batch of figures come in, it's our regular customers, in they come and they bought out all the stock. Some of them had already pre-ordered, so some customers would say, just don't care what the cost, just get me the set and give me a ring as soon as they're in. So that's what we did with a lot of our regular customers when we had the shop. So back to the point, yes, these figures sold tremendously well, mass produced, mass sold. Now let's move forward nearly 30 years, 29 years to be precise, to 2024, which is where we are today. Even though we're at the end of 2024. Do these figures come up very often on the platforms? Well, they do still appear on the platforms, don't get me wrong. Not as often as they used to. Used to see them very, very frequently on the platforms. However, nowadays, not so often. They do come up. More often you see them loose out of the packets. but they do still appear, obviously, and sometimes you do see them like this in mint condition. But as I say, I always tell you, if you're buying on the platforms, be very careful that you are ordering the new item or the item that you want, because a lot of the platforms use stock images and stock descriptions. So if you don't actually click on the use button, you may well end up with something that you don't think you've ordered. And then you've got all the hassle of having to send it back and all that rigmarole. So it can be a lot of hassle. Alternatively, you can come to us at Midas Touch Toys, Games and Collectibles, where you will find this figure. Now, these figures that we have are case fresh. It was a case of figures that we found in a stock shop buyout. There were quite a few cases of different action figures from different periods of time in their stock room, which they never actually put on the shelves and sold because time had moved on, and they've moved on to the next item. And fortunate for us, all that stock was still available in the warehouse, and we bought it all out as the shop closed down. And this particular figure was in one of those cases. So case fresh, mint condition. Finding them like this is not easy, and finding them like this just doesn't happen these days. But this particular figure, along with all the others that were in the same case, are available to purchase on the Midas Touch website, which you can get to very simply by clicking the link below. It will take you straight to the website, where you'll be able to find this and many other vintage Star Trek items, and many other vintage toys, games and collectibles come to that. There's over 10,000 products currently available on the website for you to view and purchase at your leisure. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because we're uploading videos for every new item that goes into the website. There will be something for everybody, and I am absolutely positive that this is something that you're not going to want to miss, because we literally have thousands and thousands of new items which we're shooting videos for and uploading on a daily basis. So if there's something in particular you're looking for, something old that you've never been able to find, something quirky that you might want to buy for a friend, or perhaps just something from your childhood that you'd like to own again to help you recuperate those long-lost childhood memories, well, stay tuned, keep watching, because you never know, the next item we upload could be that item you've been looking for. Okay, that is it for me on this particular item. I do hope you've enjoyed reviewing this wonderful, wonderful old Sulu action figure with me. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next video. So bye for now.